Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. If you didn't see our previous video, boy, you really missed out. Might even been a couple of them. Our buddy Shane brought us a pair of Stern Dracula pinball machines that he wants us to fix. That's right, for Shane, one's not enough. He's got two Dracula pinball machines. Now, if you don't know, if you're not a collector, these are kind of one of the more desirable of the early Stern pinball machines. So to have one is a thing. To have two, that's a whole other thing. So we've got two of them here that we're working on. But we have decided that we're going to do this left one first. So in the previous video, we went through and we worked on the power supply. Oh, we did one video where we kind of showed the difference between the two of them. This one is an earlier one, that one's a later one. You can tell by the cabinets and some just differences in the design, the way the thing was put together. And we kind of decided that we like the left one better. He's trying to pick one that's better than the other to keep. So we're going to make the first one a thing for his personal one, and then the second one we're going to fix up. I think he's got it sold to someone else. So hopefully he can make enough on that one to pay for this one. And then he gets a free Dracula. He's always scheming. He's always got some kind of plan. But on the previous video, on this one, we worked on the power supply. And we went all through it just to get it to light up like it is right now. Okay. But while we were in there, we figured out that it is missing its solenoid driver board. So we need to do that next. That's the next piece of the puzzle. So there was the wiring in the bottom. It runs up to the transformer, which goes to the rectifier board right next to the transformer that basically creates all of the different voltages that the machine needs. From there, a couple of the voltages run up to the solenoid driver board, which is going to control the displays, the solenoids, and the 5 volts that all of the PCBs in the game run off of. So since it's missing from this one, we have to scrounge up a solenoid driver board that we can pop in this thing. So I've got a stash of them in the back. Let's go see if I can find one that we can donate to the cause. Of course, I'll charge them for it. See if we can find one that we can donate to the cause and get this Dracula a little further along on its quest to, attack all of the women in London. All right. So out of my collection, I have dug out my Solenoid PCBs' Bally box. I wonder who did this. Oh, it says regional rate box. I wonder if that worked. You think the guy at the post office or the girl at the post office was cool with you marking out regional rate? Maybe, I don't know. I had this shipped to me a long time ago. It looks like in 2013 by Mark, whoever that was. Mark must have sent me something. And then I put my solenoid boards in it. So they've been in this box since 2013. Now, if you've seen my videos, you know I've been in this box before. This is where we keep all of our extra solenoid boards. Now, this is a Stern pinball machine. Created by Stern Electronics, Dracula. All of the Stern solenoid driver boards, and most of their boards at least, with the exception of like the sound boards, were copies of the Bally boards. They, from what I understand, it's been explained to me, the way they pulled that off was Bally had a company design them their new board set, and then Stern bought that company and had them design them their own board sets that look suspiciously exactly like the Bally board sets. So let's see what I've got in this box. The Stern and the Bally ones are interchangeable, and you can use either one in the machine. Now this one is something weird. I don't know what this is. This says lamp solenoid driver combo. This is not what we want. I believe this is for a baby Pac-Man. You don't see that too often. So we better save that, because we do have a baby Pac-Man. That's right. There is one more. There is another. We have stuff we've been keeping a hold of for quite a while. And you might say, well, why would you hang on to something like that? Well, sometimes they need a lot of work, and so it's going to take us a lot of time. And I'm busy fixing Shane's boards. Shane's machine, so I can't fix my own. Yeah, that's right. I said it, Shane. We love it, though. Okay, this says works good. January of 22. Well, there you go, Shane. There's your board. Maybe we just pop this one right in and see if it really does work good. Now, it looks like I've already been through it. Look. But if it works good, why is there no fuse on it? I don't trust whoever wrote that. RL. What was it? Ryan. I don't know. And then the L would be Lions. Oh. Yeah, that one's probably perfect. Okay, and then we have this one. This one has an extra accoutrement on the back. What the hell is this? Come on, people. What are you... Come on now. What are you doing to me? Look, you don't put the... They're going to make me start rearranging some furniture up in here. It's got tape. Oh, God, it's got tape on it, too. All right. Maybe we'll donate that one to Shane's game. He said he wanted a nice one, right? Yeah. Well, maybe we shouldn't do that to him. This is a Bally. It's caught on fire twice. And the 5-volt voltage regulator has seen better days. So that one's a definite candidate for Shane's game. Okay, and let's see what we got. We're getting down to the dredges. I've went back to the well too much, I think. I might need to get some new ones to put in this box and sell some of these. I mean, these are starting to get bad, people. Now, at first, you might look at this one and say, ooh, it's pretty. Yeah, but it's missing all kinds of stuff. The voltage regulator's gone. The decoder chip is gone. And the 3 drivers or whatever that make these solenoids come on are gone. As well as a bunch of the tip 102 transistors. It's just, this is not a good place to start here. So we'll put that there. Okay, next up. This one looks pretty clean, but it's missing the decoder. I believe I have those though. I think that's a 74-154. And I think I've got those. I don't know how I would ever be able to tell. If I just had another solenoid driver board here that I could look at. Let me see if I'm correct about that. Yes, I can remember some things. 74-154, is that what I said? Or did I say 174? I think I said 154. Okay, so it's missing one of those, but I've got those brand new. This is actually a very clean looking little board. Needs the 3055. By the way, folks, I've had people email me saying that the 3055s are $80 now. They are not $80 now. They are $80 at a couple suppliers. Why they're doing that, I have no clue. I need to call them and ask them. But the 3055s, if you see them advertised for $80 online, do not pay $80 no matter how nice of a company I tell you that is in most videos. It ain't worth $80. That's cray-cray. Just go on eBay and buy freaking 15 of them for $80. I don't know why they're doing that. It must just be a certain one, and they, for whatever reason, they want $80 for them. But do not pay $80 for the chip, the transistor that goes right there. This one's a good one. It's also missing the fuse holder, though, but I've got those. I like this one a lot. That's a very clean one. The only thing is this other one that says that it's good to go. Why is it not in the machine if it's good to go? Okay, and then there's 2 more here. There's this one. Again, just a parts board. And then there is this one. Also a parts board. Now, these parts boards, if you got the PCB, you can put the rest of the stuff back on, and it wouldn't even be that expensive. So that's why I save them. One of these days I might want to rebuild them. But the truth of the matter is, these things are pretty reliable once they're rebuilt, and they also make brand new ones. You can get a brand new one for, I think it's about 150 bucks, might even be a little less than that. I've never bought one though, I just rebuild the old ones. And every game that's ever been parted, everybody takes the boards out and they save them. And most of them are completely usable still. So there is a glut of these boards. If it's caught on fire like this, you know, we're probably not going to use that on anything. But a board like this is pretty common. You find one like in this kind of condition easily. This is a decent board here, but it's the one that they put the extra fuse on. I don't like that, but that's, you know, we can take that off. It's no big deal. So really, not counting baby pack, we've got 2 boards here. And I gotta say, I've already reworked this one, and it says that it's good to go. So I kind of got to put this one in, right? I mean, why go through all the trouble of working on another one if I've got one that says that it's good to go? So I think what we'll do is, this fuse would blow if this transistor, or this transistor were bad. So maybe we check those 3, and then put a fuse in it, and pop it in the machine and see what happens. Because, I mean, this is the cap I always put on them. That looks suspiciously like my initials. So I think this thing... Oh, you know what? There's the problem. Ha-ha! Ha-ha! Now I see what's going on. I must have took this out of somebody's machine that put LED displays in it. The filter cap is missing for the high voltage. And the cap is... the fuse is missing for the high voltage. But guess what? After talking it over with our buddy Shane, what's that say? Red LED displays from Wolfpack Tech. So we are putting LED displays in it, which means we don't need the high voltage. If you put LED displays in it, it's really common to take that fuse out, and that filter cap you don't have to take off, but if you're not using any of this, you might as well take that off. So I think this is the one. See, that's our signal that it should go in. This one up here, it's still got the filter cap and the fuse is still in it. No, it's not. Never mind. So I think this is the one. Nice, clean looking board. It's a Bally, not a Stern, but that won't hurt the value of the machine or anything. So that's that. So let's go pop it in the machine and see if our voltages are right. And if they are, we'll move on, I guess, to the MPU. All right, we have mounted it up in there. I must have fixed that for a previous one. I don't know what the deal with the filter cap, though. But again, we don't need it because we're doing LEDs. So let's turn it on and see if anything catches on fire. Nothing got on fire that I can tell. Looks pretty good. Okay, so since we're not using the high voltage, all that really matters is it creating 5 volts. So we'll use our trusty fluke here. I had someone send me a fluke. I just haven't had the time yet to go through it and start using it. But thank you again to who did that. If you're wondering why we haven't started using that yet, we will. So there's a little ground test point there. And then over here, there are a couple test points. The top one will be 12 volts, unregulated, and the bottom one should be 5 volts. So the 12 volts comes in. This voltage regulator here to 78H05, 78H05, turns it into 5, and it's usually a little high, so it's probably going to be 5.3 or something if it's working. So our top one, 14.42 because it's unregulated, and the bottom one, 5.14. You know, if I could guess, if I could pick, if I could say, what exact voltage do you want coming out of the 5-volt regulator? I might say 5.14, because you want it a little bit high, because you might lose a little bit in the wiring, and once all of the chips are plugged in, right? Okay, so now that is creating the 5 volts, and we didn't have any solenoids lock on whenever we turned it on, our next thing that we need to do is get an MPU working. Now, the one that came with this particular game, oh, and I don't know if I mentioned, but whenever we cleaned out the bottom, I found the cover that goes on the rectifier board that we fixed on the previous video. The one that came with the game is this one. Okay. It's not the end of the world. This is savable. However, Shane is saving this particular machine. So I'm going to look in this DRACULA and see if the MPU in that one's in better shape. I think it is. So we're going to rebuild whichever one's better and put in this machine. So let me pop that one out and we'll compare the two. So here's the one that was in it. And here's the other one. Not really any better. As a matter of fact, it's kind of worse. Well, I think we're going to leave this one. We're just going to leave them where they were. I'm going to remove this battery, though, so it doesn't get any worse. Of course, we're redoing both boards, by the way. Just not right now. We're doing one now, and then once we get it finished, we'll come back and do the other one. So that 78, 30, 30th week of 1978. Rechargeable nickel cadmium battery. What do you think? It's pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, since they're both about the same shape, I'm just going to leave this one in the right one and this one in the left one. And now on these, it doesn't really matter if they're numbers matching. Any kind of collector would probably consider it an upgrade if it had new boards. So it doesn't really matter if you've got, like if you had the board swapped or something, it wouldn't really affect price or anything. Although if you had one where every single thing was original and all of the numbers matched and everything, yeah, it might be worth something. But very hard to find something like that. And then it would just be an interesting thing to tell people when you sold it. It wouldn't necessarily, there's no price guide on these, you know. So one person may decide this game's worth $2,000, another person may decide it's worth $5,000. It's just, it basically comes down to what are people willing to pay for it. There's so few of them that there's not really, like I said, there's not really a price guide. And by few, what number did we find? 3,000? There's 3,000 of them or something like that. That's pretty rare in the grand scheme of things. In the world of pinballs, that's an okay production run, but 3,000 of anything, it's rare. Okay, so we'll put this one back, and then we'll start in on this one. So we'll give it a quick look over. The train has arrived. Hear it? See this? This is corrosion that has stretched all the way up here on the ground plane from the battery that was down here. On these Stern games, they actually use this top connector. You don't see that used often, but on the Stern games they did. They used, because this is basically a bus directly to the CPU. So the CPU is a 6800, and it drives everything, and it has 6821 peripheral interface adapters. ROM, and then a 6810 RAM, and then a 5101 RAM to save settings and stuff, high scores. Okay, so that's basically the CPU side of it. But this connects directly to the address and I guess data bus. So whenever Stern designed their sound card, they decided to plug it in up here. And so the sound cord has like a ribbon or a bunch of individual wires, but like all of these heading over to the sound card, which is mounted over here. On Bally's, they don't really use that. I don't know if they use that on any of the Bally's, but Stern used it on a bunch of them. Okay, so the top half of the board looks pretty good, with the exception of that chip. The legs are filthy. So this black mess here needs to be cleaned off so that they make good contact in the sockets. Some people use contact cleaner for that. I don't. I use a little, like a fine file and scrape that crap off. But you do it the way you want to do it. So, as typical, basically this stuff starts creeping, and it's like a flood line. Sometimes it's just a little bit, sometimes it's a little bit more, and it will just keep going. So it hasn't made it up to the ROMs, so that's untouched. Okay, and so next down is the 6821. So is that just dirt and dust, or is that the socket? Doesn't look that great. Might be on the socket. Okay, and then see this Q2? There was a transistor there that's completely broke off. So, you know, I mean, Shane, I'm going to have to charge you for a new transistor, buddy. These are like 20 cents now. Ooh, look at this. Crusty. Look at it. Alkaline, what have you done? Okay, so here's the 5101. This is always screwed up, so you definitely need to mess with it. There's a capacitor here that is all screwed up. Here is another capacitor that's all screwed up. Now, if you're a hobbyist, or you have this at your house, what I would advise you to do in the instance of this is just buy a new board, because it's like $200. But I'm not a hobbyist. I've got all these parts, so I can fix it. Interestingly enough, there's the 5101. There's the 6810, and the socket for it actually looks fine. Although the 6821 is higher, and the end of it looks like it might have something going on. So it kind of, you know, it has its own mind. All of this will disappear whenever we start messing with it. All that's going to come off. It's going to flake off the solder mask, basically. So it's no longer going to say Stern. All this is going to be open. And then sometimes you get it where it really screws up these resistors. There is a little something going on there, but they're not damaged yet. Okay. Oh, and this. So, how do you fix it? Well, you start taking this crap off that's damaged. Now, in the manual, it shows you every little part, everything that's supposed to be there, the value of it. They make little kits, too, to rebuild this. I used to have people get them from Great Plains Electronics. They went out of business. So they may make them at Big Daddy Enterprises, if you're aware of that. There's a pinball place, Big Daddy Enterprises. They may actually have them, because they sell a lot of components and stuff for pinball machines. But basically, you can get a little kit that has pretty much all this stuff in it. It'll have a 5101 socket, and maybe the chip. It'll have an LED. It'll have all these little resistors. It'll have the little transistor that goes there. And there are two more somewhere. There was one there. And I think there's a third one here. Yeah, there was one there. Oh yeah, it's still there. There it is. See the Q? See the Q here where one's missing? It looks worse than it is because the stuff's just running wild on it. It's like, you know, having at it. So you take all the stuff off, and then you take sandpaper and sand all this crap down to where it's nice and clean, shiny metal. And then you take, since this is an alkaline base, which is literally a base, you put vinegar on it, which is a little acidic, and it kind of neutralizes it, or at least that's the theory. You let the vinegar work a little bit, and then you rinse it off. After you rinse it off, you put rubbing alcohol or alcohol on it, which will basically, alcohol wicks up water. So when the alcohol evaporates really fast, so as it evaporates, it'll take the water with it. It cleans everything up. You can skip the alcohol step if you just let it sit for a couple days after you clean it up. So the first thing I need to do is take off all of the stuff that I'm going to replace. Now, I'm not going to take everything off that is touched. Like this big resistor there. So see how that doesn't look that great? I'm going to leave that on. I'm going to take a wire brush and just go nuts on it and take all of this corrosion off that's visible. This is, this is an extreme reaction that's happened here, so you got to get kind of extreme with it. So don't baby it. Take a wire brush and scrape the hell out of it. At the end of the day, if you screw up the board, you're going to have to buy another board anyway. But if you want to save it, you got to do extreme things, all right? So I'm going to start taking stuff off, and then I'll let you see what it looks like after I get some of the junk off of it. So this is after the preliminary scraping. Basically anything that has some bubbly going on, scrape the hell out of it. Now notice we don't have everything off. Preliminary. And that helps you understand what's really screwed up. What really needs replaced. Okay, so next thing I'm going to start removing some of the components. Here's the back as well. Look at that. And on the 6821, I could see some corrosion down here, which tells me that on the top there's probably some too where we thought we saw it. This is the LED, I believe. Yeah, that's the LED. It's interesting because it looks like somebody may have swapped it at some point. Okay, so if you get them and they have corrosion like this, you will notice that solder will not stick to that. So if you're trying to unsolder some of these components, you need it to be shiny like that or it's not going to work. And then what you can do is try to add a little solder to it to get it to flow, and then remove the solder, and you can take the parts out. But once it gets corroded, it's just really hard to get solder to stick to it. So just get it shiny, then you can get solder to stick to it. Okay, so I'm going to start taking some of the components off. Now again, you don't really have to pay attention to where they go because we're going to look in the manual to put them back. Alright, so I have removed everything that looked touched by corrosion, with the exception of these resistors because I think they're fine. But all this stuff, every bit of it. This chip is also fine. And you can see when you take off the connectors, you find more trash under them. And it's usually this one worse than that one for some reason. Okay, so I took off everything that was screwed up. Ooh. What do you think? So this is 1978, 1979, when was it? 79, I think. It's been a while. So here's everything I took off of it. Crazy. I always feel like I'm accomplishing something when I do this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with the wire brush again on all of my newly discovered places. All of this stuff. And then also the back, of course. And then I'm going to sand the traces with 220 grit sandpaper. Alright, so this is after going crazy with the sandpaper. Again, people, if you think you're going to damage the PCB, buy a new one. Right? It don't work. It needs extreme measures to get it to work again. This is not for the faint-hearted. Okay, now this is always interesting to me. There is a trace all the way around the board that is the ground plane. And whenever you mount it on the cabinet, you put screws in the board to hold it in. And one usually goes down here, and one usually goes up here. Okay? So now there's other ones, but they don't actually have screws in them usually. I may have that wrong. Maybe that was one of them. So anyway, two of them usually have a screw. I'm trying to think. I think it's usually that one and that one. So if you look though, once you get all of the solder, solder mask off of it, which is this green material, right, and blue material. Once you get that off, you see that a lot of the trace has been damaged. And that's not from my sanding, that's from the Alkaline. And it works strangely. Some places, like you would think all of these traces would be gone, but they never really are. These are always usually in pretty good shape once you clean them up. And I consider this cleaning them up. And then over here, look, it's completely broken. So this is not connected to that. And man, it's barely connected over here. So that would make everything on the top part of the board not be grounded. So, you know, that's part of the problem. And on the front, it was similar. It's pretty good. That's actually still solder mask. Until you get to right here. And then a bunch of it's gone. And it's good over here. So whatever, if you get a spot like that, you can put solder over it. You could even put a little jumper wire if you want, if you're trying to fix one up. Now again, a lot of people are just going to buy a brand new board, but if you're trying to save a little money, or you like just the idea of fixing the old one, this is the way to go. And when I was removing the parts, the way I did it was because again with that solder with the Alkaline damage, it's hard to get the solder off sometimes. So you can't get all of it off easily, especially if there is a part sticking through the hole. So the way I do it is I take this little thing and I put it underneath the resistor, and then as I heat up the other end, I gently pry on it and pry it loose. And so that's how I got all that stuff loose. Check this out. You're gonna love this. Channel Lock. These are Channel Lock brand, the famous company that makes channel locks. And look at this. This is their logo. We're almost there. Are you ready? USA, baby. They still make channel lock in the United States. Did you know that? If you go on their website, they're proud of it too. They've got these videos of like inside their factory, and it's like the great grandson of whoever invented channel lock. He's like, yeah, we're still here in the same building, blah, 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 blah. There shows people in there, men and women, in there beating on iron and putting them in forges and crap to make the tools. And apparently that's how they're actually doing it. So get you some channel lock stuff. All right. So now we need to take, I've got all of the damage that I could off of it. So now I'm going to take vinegar, straight up vinegar, and wet all of the areas that would have been affected with vinegar. And that will neutralize anything that I couldn't get off that maybe I can't even see. You know, like in one of the vias or something. And then I'm going to leave that on there for a few minutes, and then I'm going to rinse it off. And hopefully that'll do something. It's just commonly held practice whenever you're doing this. By the way, I didn't come up with this idea. People have been doing this since, 1990 on the internet. Was the internet around in 90? Whenever. So we're going to hit it with Alkaline and then rinse the Alkaline off. And hopefully that will neutralize it a little bit. And then we'll get back into putting everything back on it. All right, folks, I brushed the vinegar on, and I'm happy with how it's turned out so far. We'll let it dry for a day. I have here, this is a document that was created by Great Plains Electronics, and he has retired, but I don't believe he minds if people use it. So basically, he went through and he made a list of all of the parts in the affected area. And he put this with his little kit that you bought. And he would send you all of this stuff. And it was like, I swear it was like $6 or something. It was really cheap. And it shows you every little part. So I'm going to use his old diagram, thank you Ed, to repair it. So I'm going to start putting the stuff back in piece by piece and just go through, repopulate it all. Some of them I'm going to use the original stuff if it's not damaged, but if it's messed up I'm just going to put a new one in. This is actually one of the old kits. So it just came with a bunch of stuff. I think this is actually a couple of them that I put in one bag with the stuff that I didn't use. So I'm going to use out of this whatever I can, and then I've got all the other stuff. I've got a full complement of resistors and stuff. So, but this is how it looked back in the day whenever you got it in. And then you could download these instructions off of his website. All right, folks, so that's after we got everything repopulated. I've heard people complain about how these look after they're done. That's all in people's heads, right? This looks just as good as this part of the board. If you would complain about how this looks, you would complain about how this looks. It looks fine. All that matters is the components are connected to each other and connected to where they need to be on the board. Now I made a little jumper here. Remember, this is for a horror-themed game. Little jumper here. And a little jumper there. Now, let's say our buddy Shane doesn't like it. Well, then he can just pop it out and put a brand new one in there. But he's not going to do that, because if it works, he's going to be very happy. Okay, so we need to clean the chips for show. Look at this one. That's the main CPU. It's a 6800. That, with all of that tarnish on the legs, it's probably not making very good contact with that socket. The game will not boot if the CPU is not working, obviously. So I'm going to clean that. The other ones actually look pretty good. These are the two original ones. I put them back in. No, I'm sorry. The 5101 is the new one. This is the 6810 RAM. I put it back in, though, because it looked fine. This is the 6821. I put it back in because it looked fine. It was just, you know, the socket was giving us some trouble. So then you've got, these are your two ROMs. This is another 6821. And then, of course, there's some various support chips that weren't affected. This chip here is a 555 timer. Sometimes that will give you problems. Is it a 555 or 556? It's 555. I put new connectors on it. Right. So there was one connection over here that didn't look that great. So I made a new connection. This is going to be a good thing, people. And as far as the battery and all of that, we'll worry about that if we can get the thing to boot. So here's that 6800. This is how the legs look in the socket. This is because they're silver plated tin, I think. Something like that, the legs. And whenever I was cleaning it, I broke one of the legs off. Or it hasn't broke off yet. You're about to see it die after all this time. Yeah. So basically it's very brittle. Now you could fix that, but once one of them's doing that, this thing, you know, well, I don't know. The rest of them feel pretty good, actually. I think I'll just swap it out with a different one. So the 6800 didn't survive. We'll put a different one in it. Nice clean one. Obsolete as hell. But there it is. Okay, so we're ready to test it and just see what we get. Now, if you're unfamiliar with these Bally's, this little LED here, it does a flash test at the beginning. So it's supposed to flash real quick one time and then turn itself off, which basically means, hey, I've got power, I'm awake. And then it'll flash 7 times after that. And if you count the number of flashes, whichever one it stops at, that means it didn't do the next step. And there's a sequence involved. So it'll kind of tell you what's going on. So it's going to check this 5101 RAM for us. It's going to check this 6810 RAM for us. It's going to check this PIA chip. It's going to check this PIA chip. The very first flash checks the ROMs. And then it's going to check for the solenoid voltage on the board. It actually goes through and checks everything. And if it doesn't do the initial flash, usually you have a problem in the reset circuit. The reset circuit is all of this stuff down here that was ate up. So we very well could have a problem with that. So we'll see. All right, folks, I cleaned the rest of the chips. Everything looked good. The middle one had two legs that were all screwed up looking too, so I swapped it out as well. The two ROMs looked good. They're actually PROMs. Right? So let's give it a shot. Now we're looking for a quick flicker if our reset section is working that we replaced all the stuff on. And then the first flash after that is going to check the ROMs. It's like this little game that we're going to play, right? And then the second flash, it's going to check this 6810 RAM chip. And then the third flash is going to check this 5101. That might be where it fails because that thing is all in the acid zone. Remember, the battery was right here, okay? And then the fourth flash is going to check this chip. The fifth flash is going to check this chip. The sixth flash, I don't remember. Might be this one. And then the seventh flash checks to make sure that the solenoids are working. That the solenoid voltage is there. They call it the zero crossing. Zero crossing. So let's see if we get anything. The most common thing that you get is the LED is just locked on. So we very well may have that. Or hopefully we'll get a flash code, and then we'll see which one of the 7 flashes it stops after, and that can tell you which chip to replace. That was the flash 1. That's the first one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom! Dracula is back from the undead. I was going to say he's back alive, but he's not. Dracula's undead, right? He's a vampire. He's the vampire. What the hell is buzzing? Oh, coin door. So there is a lockout coil. So that coil is turned off the whole time that the game is turned off, so that so it can't take your quarter. If you put your quarter in while that coil is not pulled out, it'll just come right back out. So that coil probably hasn't worked in quite a while. It's trying to wake up a little bit. There we go. Just needed a little affection, you know. But remember, we don't have any displays because that solenoid driver board, the high voltage section, has been disabled basically. But we have the LED displays. Before we do the displays though, we can plug the light board back in. What are these? That's, ooh, we might have volume or something. Let's see if the soundboard has came back alive. Now, folks, the soundboard didn't have much going for it. I mean, this was early. This is, you know, late 79, early 80. So if you're getting anything, it's going to give you a beep, 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 beep. It's not, you know, it's not going to be nothing spectacular here, but so let's turn it back on and see if we get any lights. Let's see if the flash does it every time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. Ha ha! Oh man, it's got the horror. Oh Lord, look what it's doing on for us. What the hell? It sounds like a really bad Led Zeppelin song. I'm just kidding. There's no bad Led Zeppelin. Okay, maybe there's a couple with that theremin crap. Let's see if it does it again. It would have been better if it was turned up loud the first time I did it and it scared the hell out of me and started making horror movie music. Okay, so all of that crap was probably like the capacitors reforming or something. It wasn't supposed to do that. But it's actually kind of quiet. That sounded fine. Let's turn it on one more time. The hum you're hearing is the vacuum cleaner. Wow, it's got some volume. All right, folks, so Dracula is back, kind of. He's not very strong yet. So this is what we're going to do on the next video. I ordered these. We talked it over with Shane, and he needs one set of these, basically. And for his one that he's going to keep at the house, we're going to put some cool red LED displays in it. So we'll build those and put them in next time. Maybe work on the lamp boards as well. If you've never messed with these, they're awesome. So I buy the ones that you put together. If you haven't figured out yet, I'm a do-it-yourselfer type of person. You buy the kits, they're a little cheaper. So they work on all the valleys and all the sterns. We've had good luck with them. They're simple to put together. They don't take too long. Basically, he mails you a bunch of stuff. So each one of these bags, so that's the two boards that make up one display, and that's the little connectors that make the display. So if you look, really, there's not a lot to put on. So it's, you know, anyone is capable of this if you're handy with a soldering iron at all. I mean, you see this, right? It looks like there's about 3 resistors, a couple caps, 3 chips, and then some connectors. Right? Now on this board, you have to add in the actual displays, but you just put them in place, get them straight, and solder them in. So it doesn't take too long, but we'll do that on the next video. So I hope you enjoyed it so far. Make sure to leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. We've been getting tons of haters lately, but that's all right. We will persevere. Haters gotta hate. But leave your comments down below. If there are hateful comments, I'll probably just delete them. Or delete you. Right? This is what I have left of our battery repair kit. Or kits. I think I had 3 or 4 of them. So this is all I've got left of Ed's kits. He's no longer making them. So I'm going to try to figure out what these are with my little cheat sheet. Now I know there's the little palindrome or whatever it's called, the little saying where you can tell what they are, but I'm going to use the cheat sheet just to make sure I'm right. I'm going to put them all back. I've got a cabinet here full of resistors. You know, I've made so many videos now. I've made 1,100 videos or something like that. And so it's to the point now when I'm making videos, as I talk about things, I think about all of the complaints that people have made. So, you know, I had people complain, oh, you shouldn't keep your stuff in those plastic tubs. No. So that's part of YouTube is they constantly complain. And it's human nature to be very upset about that, you know. If you get 90 people telling you something good and then you get one person moaning and complaining, and you end up remembering the person that moans and complains. So it's hard to get past that. I had a couple people complain that I told them to buy this. Right? I had complaints about that. Now look, mine, I have worn the label off of it, and I still use it. But to them, it's not good enough, so they want to complain about it, you know? So, I mean... So these tubes, I've been working on a tube amp. Last time I did that, I had several people complain I didn't do it right. Oh, God, I shouldn't mess with it if I don't know what I'm doing. When I show people this card, I've had several people tell me I should have that memorized. I shouldn't need a cheat sheet if I'm here's my file that I use. I've had people say, oh, that's way too aggressive. You shouldn't do that. People will no doubt tell me this is the wrong brand of these. right? People will tell me it's the wrong, you shouldn't use those. Some of those are quarter watt. You shouldn't use the quarter watt. Of course, my solder's the wrong size. It's never ending, folks. But leave your comments below. I'm interested in what people come up with next. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. Some of you are very nice. So look, see, remember this? Somebody sent me this a little while back. Look at this beautiful book somebody sent me. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that. That was nice of him. I keep it right here on my desk for reference. So leave your comments below. Give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. And make sure to check out my brother Donnie. If you don't know, my brother Donnie has his own channel here on YouTube. He doesn't suffer fools either. But I'm over there with him on his channel a lot. Our channel here is about arcade games, jukeboxes, pinball machines, and haters. Donnie's channel is about old vehicles, old buildings. He's got a farm. And so I'm over there with him having a good time a lot of times. So if you enjoy the content and you don't take it too damn seriously, you'll enjoy his content too, because we try to be lighthearted. So we'll see you over there, but I'll see you back here in a couple days where we'll get a little farther on Mr. Dracula. Dracula #1. There is another.